Welcome everybody to the Community Planning and Economic Development meeting. Today is June 18th. It is 8 a.m. And we have our Deputy Mayor, Ben Winograd, Councilmember Alberto Cortez, our Town Manager, Rick Ledwith, and Dwayne Martin. Can I have a motion to approve the minutes from the last meeting?
So moved.
Can I have a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Aye.
Okay, now we can move on to item B, which is the draft ordinance concerning parking in the Isham and Memorial garages.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good morning, everyone. We had invited Karen Johnson from Brand Properties in Blueback Square to join us at this meeting to discuss this ordinance. But Karen unexpectedly was unable to join us this morning, and we will respectfully withdraw this agenda item and add it to the next meeting.
Just quickly, I did not see that Mayor Cantor is on the call. So we're going to move on to item C then?
We will, yes. And by way of a little history, back in 2024, CROG, Capital Region Council of Governments, was awarded a grant from DEEP, the Connecticut Department of Energy and Environmental Protection, to conduct a Capital Region Stormwater Authority study. And West Hartford, among a few other communities, agreed to participate in this study, which started earlier this year and will continue through the rest of the calendar year. And we felt it was important to understand how a regional stormwater authority, or a utility as they're often referred to as well, would work, and what benefits an authority or utility would provide the town. And as you know, we'll discuss this morning, us participating in the study does not include a commitment to participating in a future regional authority, but we definitely felt being part of the study, really at the ground level, and learning as much as we could about the potential of an authority would be, it made sense for us to be part of this study. So our Director of Community Development, Dwayne Martin, represents the town on this study. And Dwayne has a PowerPoint that he will share with the committee this morning, and then we'd be happy to take any questions that the committee had. So through you, Madam Chair, I will turn things over to Dwayne Martin.
Thank you, Mr. Ledwith. Good morning, everybody. Dwayne Martin, Director of Community Development. So I'm going to go through some opening remarks, and then I'll shift over to the PowerPoint and happy to answer any questions at the end. I'll be as brief as I can. Thank you, Rick, for the introduction for this item. As always, did a great job. So yes, I'm acting on behalf of CROG for this study as a spokesperson. And the idea was to bring this to this committee before they start their public outreach process as part of this study, which is coming up very quickly, as you'll see when I go through the schedule for this project. I volunteered to represent the town of West Hartford and serve on CROG's advisory committee, for which we've had 2 meetings. There's a third meeting scheduled, I believe, for next week. And I'm not for or against a regional stormwater authority at this point. The study is approximately halfway done, so there's a lot more that they need to go through to provide information to us to make an educated decision. So much more to come on that. The study needs to essentially progress much more. They've done a great job, but there's a lot more information that they need to provide to us, and I'll go through that in a minute. And it's important to point out that there is no decision that needs to be made at this point by the town council. This is just strictly for information, educational purposes. However, CROG is interested in getting feedback from all the member communities that are interested or not interested in going forward with a regional stormwater authority. So at some point, probably at the beginning of next year, I would say, they're going to be looking for some sort of official response from the town of West Hartford. So just bear with me as I go through some of these talking points. So the Capital Region Council of Governments, or CROG, as I'll refer to them from here on out, applied for and received a grant, as Mr. Ledwith mentioned, from Connecticut Department of Energy and Environmental Protection to determine if a regional stormwater utility could be a viable solution for a group of its member municipalities. So the process started by reaching out to all of the CROG towns to see who would be interested. And there were a number of them, including West Hartford, who stepped forward as what they call a community to be analyzed as part of the Stormwater Authority. So there were 5 municipalities in total that stepped forward, 4 besides West Hartford, and those are New Britain, Rocky Hill, Bloomfield, and the city of Hartford. There was also 2, 3, 4 other communities that came forward that are somewhat interested but didn't want to play an active role in the study. And those are Glastonbury, Newington, East Hartford, and Wethersfield. They refer to those as observing communities for the purposes of the study. So all those communities are voluntarily and jointly participating in the study to explore the paths for managing stormwater in the region, and specifically determine whether combining or consolidating services, setting up a utility funding approach, or otherwise collaborating may be advantageous. Though CROG is coordinating the study, leadership from several entities is part of an advisory group that is overseeing the study and will advise CROG on which solutions, if any, may be feasible for implementation. The study builds on each municipality's history and excellent track record of providing high-quality, reliable services, and considers trends that affect all entities. It will include analysis to help address all potential opportunities and challenges, including changing conditions, affordability of services, and regulatory changes. This study to determine a feasible solution is being conducted impartially and without bias toward any particular outcome. All entities involved have agreed to a set of critical success factors regardless of study recommendations. Participating entities agreed that any solution must benefit all municipalities' customers in terms of service levels and affordability, and employees' jobs. Their compensation and their benefits should not be impacted negatively. The study began in March of 2025 and is anticipated to take approximately 10 months, with a final report on its findings available in January of 2026. A multidisciplinary consulting team is conducting the study, which includes Raff Tillis, CDM Smith, and RYP. All entities involved are committing to ongoing transparent communications about the study. As such, all regional stakeholders can stay informed of the study progress at the CROG website, and CROG will make the final study recommendations public when available. I'll talk about the website in just a minute. Let me share my screen now and I'll walk through the PowerPoint. Hopefully everybody can see that. Okay. I promise I won't read everything on all these slides. There's a lot of content. You should have this as well to review if you haven't had an opportunity yet. I'm just going to go through some of the highlights. So project overview. I've already mentioned the grant. One of the goals, obviously, is determine if a regional stormwater utility could be a viable solution for CROG member municipalities. It's important to note that there's many different ways to set this up. It can be several communities. It can be just a couple. It can be sets of communities that want to pair together. But the idea is to get some benefit from a regional approach. And there's even communities that could go out on their own, should that be a decision that a municipality sees that works for them. Participation in the study, already mentioned, does not equal commitment. Talked about the schedule. So the website, I'll read this off quickly and then I can share it with Manager Ledwith to pass along. If you have the PDF document, you should be able to click on that Word website that's underlined and access CROG's web page for this project. But if you go to the CROG, CRCOG.org webpage, and then click the links for regional planning and development, and then environmental energy, and then regional stormwater authority study. And again, I'll pass that along to Mr. Ledwith afterwards. So what is a stormwater utility? So the idea is to create a body that is overseeing all matters related to stormwater for a particular municipality. So the way that I looked at it is there's kind of three different pieces to this, all of which we are already doing in West Hartford. One is maintaining a storm drainage system. So that could involve our engineering division, it could involve our public works department, it could involve others, and just keeping the system in an operating form that is good for our municipality. That's number one. Number two, obviously, we have had flooding occurrences throughout town, unfortunately, and we are working on those. We have flood mitigations projects under design, permitting, and scheduled for construction coming up soon. So that's the other piece of it. So you have your storm drainage system for just the average routine rain event, not unlike today, or you have major storms that come through and create flooding events for which there are other challenges, and we're looking to improve for that. And then there's our state permit for what we've referred to as MS4, or small municipal separate storm sewer systems, the 4 S's. So those are the three prongs in which you can fold into a stormwater utility and set up the management and a funding mechanism to address all the needs of those. User fee frequently are established by ordinance, and generally the stormwater utility funding is separate from water and sewer and general fund. Stormwater utilities, the intent is to have a fair, equitable, and stable way to collect revenue to be able to manage the programs that I mentioned just a minute ago. And you align the rate structure and credit program with goals of the stormwater program. Stormwater utility is also important to point out. It's probably fairly new for the capital region, maybe even in Connecticut, but they are becoming more and more popular in the Northeast and nationwide. Basis for utility fees. So this is a very important component for a stormwater utility, is how do we assess and charge fees should we go forward? And they're oftentimes set up based upon impervious area. And there's a diagram there that you can see on the screen, which gives just a basic example of a single family home. Obviously, water can't or shouldn't flow through a roof, is not typically able to flow through a walkway or a driveway and get into the ground. So those are considered impervious areas that quickly require the water to run off. And you can see an example, it flows into the street there. The more impervious area you have, the harder it is to maintain during a heavy rain event, which leads to flooding. So the idea would be to assess properties, impervious areas, and then create a rate based upon that we would charge each property owner based upon their impervious area. It also could be used from an environmental standpoint as an incentive for somebody that's considering increasing their impervious area, or maybe even wants to reduce it based upon flooding that they're seeing on their property or in their neighborhood. The property's impervious area closely correlates with how much stormwater runoff each property generates, and properties with more impervious area create more runoff and place more demand on the stormwater system. They would therefore pay a higher fee under a stormwater utility. It's also important to point out that there are property owners in town, in any town really, that are not paying taxes or not paying full taxes. But oftentimes a lot of those have a lot of impervious areas. Okay, this next slide, it just gives you an idea of 2 different ways you could set up your model for a regional utility. You could have a group of municipalities, as I mentioned, or you could have a smaller set. And so it just points out some of the features for either approach. I'll just mention a few of these. So for the regional authority, you could implement a stormwater management program also for MS4 compliance that manages the infrastructure and asset management, but on a regional level, not just on an individual municipal level. So there you could have some shared resources through that regional approach. And then interlocal agreements, the municipalities would retain control over their local stormwater management policies and rely on local governments for enforcement. It's just a little bit of a different approach depending on how you set that up. The study will make recommendations based upon each municipality's setup and needs. So diving a little deeper into the project, again, the study. And so the idea behind this is to understand current stormwater program activities and costs for each municipality, and then give guidance and make a recommendation on a regional standpoint. So the consultant team has identified opportunities, needs, and considerations for implementing a regional stormwater utility, and they are preparing a public outreach plan. I've mentioned the analyzed and observed municipalities. There are also other collaborators that are listed there, most notably the Metropolitan District Commission. This project details slide gives a breakdown of the project and the approach that the consultant team has used. So they have kind of come up with a basis for what could or should be included in a regional approach for stormwater utility and created a scope and analysis based on that. They have met with all member municipalities, the ones that are being analyzed, including West Hartford. They met with myself, John Phillips, the Director of Public Works, Greg Summer, the town engineer, and we also consulted with Todd DeMay, the town planner. Essentially, the larger departments or divisions within West Hartford that have involvement with stormwater. And they perform what's called a gap analysis as well as a financial analysis. So based on the financial analysis, they determine how much activity we have related to those three pieces of stormwater. So maintaining a storm drainage system in West Hartford, handling our MS4 permit, and addressing the flooding impacts that we have. So they looked at our capital program, how we're funding the infrastructure improvements, how we are handling it from an operating budget standpoint, as far as the staff for the departments and divisions I mentioned, and then any other stormwater activities that staff gets involved with. And then they also asked, are there any gaps? Are there any needs that are going unfilled just because we don't have enough resources? And that was the gap analysis that they performed. And then, as I mentioned, they're going to be starting a public outreach program and engagement. So you can see that there. And that'll continue on for a period of time. They have done some attendance at events in the region just to get the word out about the study beyond the webpage. And then, of course, they'll go forward with the implementation plan and then the final report. And then this next slide just gives you an idea of the timeline. So some of this is done already, as you can see from the months. So this is March 2025. They've already done preliminary review and obtained data from municipalities. The meetings that I mentioned with the municipalities, they looked at the service levels that we have and what our needs are and the gap analysis that I mentioned. Now they're looking at revenue requirements and how to structure the revenue for potential regional stormwater utilities. And then they'll go forward with calculating what those rates might be so that we have that information to make an educated decision, and the other municipalities as well. They'll work on the communication and engagement plan, public presentations in July of this year, and then roll out a preliminary plan and then a final report to be provided to all municipalities. So I would say towards the end of the calendar year, maybe early into next year, they're going to be looking for West Hartford to weigh in on this and give some feedback to determine whether or not it's something that we want to explore further. I believe CROG indicated that once the study's done, this would not happen overnight. Obviously, if we decided to go forward with some type of stormwater utility, it's going to take some time to set that up. It could take longer even, depending on how complex it gets. So I think they were estimating that at the very earliest, the stormwater utility for the region could be formed within 2 years. And this is the last slide, excuse me. It just points out people that are involved in the study. And that is my presentation. Sorry if that was too much, but I tried to go quickly. I'll happily answer any questions that you may have.
Do any, thank you for that first. Do we have any committee members who have questions?
Through you, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, I just have a comment.
Okay.
Yeah, so I just wanted to say thank you for the presentation, and no, it's not too much. It was actually very helpful. Because going into it, I just wasn't sure what it looked like, and all the moving parts. So thank you for that.
Deputy Mayor Winograd?
Thank you, and yes, and thanks for the presentation. Obviously, it's a it's a beginning, and we'll hear a lot more as it goes along. One thing I sort of hear, I mean, you see the headline of it of being sort of a new fee, and I just want to give you a chance to sort of balance that by, sort of broadly what the advantages are in terms of revenue. So, I mean, obviously, right now we pay for, but I'm not sure. I mean, obviously, we have capital projects that we've talked a lot about. I'm not as, and the MS4. I mean, that's only a cost. We talked about that when we bought the machines, whether or not we could regionalize them, and it turned out we need them for ourselves. So, I guess the question is, where do you see savings if we switch to this original approach with a model of sort of a user fee idea? Where does that impact our budget lines in other places? And that might be too broad a question. I'm just trying to balance out what somebody might hear from this. Oh no, a new fee, without the other side of it.
Very, very good question. Through you, Madam Mayor, I don't have all the information yet from the study to be able to answer that. But I will tell you that there is the potential for some savings. We obviously spend a good amount of money each year on our stormwater program and our MS4 program. And I will tell you, to toot our own horn, we did get results from the consultant who's been interviewing other communities. I won't mention any others, but we're doing really well compared to the other communities, in particular with our MS4 program. There could be regional benefit for some of this. When you have such a, generally speaking, a smaller region and everybody is doing the same exact catch basin cleaning, for example, or doing water testing, there may be a benefit to regionalizing that. I also shared the concern when we met with the consultant about staffing. I certainly don't want to lose control over this work because we are doing such a good job. And I also don't want to lose valuable staff that is informed and familiar and experienced with how to get these things done, because then our residents won't have the same level of service that they've come accustomed to. So that's not an end result of this. I don't think it's going to be an additional fee, but that really depends on what the town council wants to do, depending on the goals that we would establish as far as what we want to get accomplished for flood mitigation, let's say, or some of the other programs that may come out of this. In other words, if you wanted to do more, there's a potential to do that. And maybe we would have some regional savings to be able to afford that and not impact our residents as much. I don't want to point out a particular property, but there are many, let's say, places of worship that may not pay a lot in taxes or any taxes, depending on how it's set up. It's not my area of expertise, but they do have parking areas and impervious areas, and they do contribute. There's a lot of residents that have done wonderful improvements to their property, but for years and years and years, they've gone unchecked or unmitigated up until maybe a few years ago with respect to flood impacts. So we are paying a lot more, especially over the past 5 years, for flood mitigation because we've been inundated with these floods. This could be an incentive to get people to think differently about when they're doing work, whether it's a major redevelopment or even a small project at a home. I would reserve criticism of this, just keep an open mind at this point until we have more information from CROG. I will also point out, this may be obvious to you, but Matt Hart, the executive director of CROG, carried this from West Hartford into CROG, recognizing that this is a challenge for most, if not all, the municipalities in the CROG region. I'm sure he would welcome if you had any specific questions, whether it's through me or directly to him, he would gladly answer those. Thank you.
Thank you, through you, Madam Chair. That's helpful. Like I said, I think, part of my message would be to wait and see on this. Very preliminary, obviously. One other question, though, in terms of, I know we're spending a lot of money and plan to spend a lot more on infrastructure on our various. We know we've seen some of the studies about the age of pipes in various municipalities, and how ours tend to be older because of we were developed sooner than other places. Would this group, would this also be looking at, again, not just the operating costs, but also the infrastructure? Is this, would that be part of the charge of the regional group to have the major infrastructure projects as part of that? That's where we're talking the really big bucks.
Yes, through you, Madam Chair. Yes, the idea is the consultant met with us, asked us a bunch of questions regarding all of our stormwater activities. And the idea is you start from where you are now. We're not crossing off any projects and eliminating them. It would be maintain what we have, if not improve it, and set it up through a regional program. I suppose we could have our own stormwater authority if we wanted to. It would just be a different way to track and obtain revenue and apply that revenue. New Britain is doing that. They have their own stormwater utility. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Nothing more from me.
Mayor Cantor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Dwayne. I think this was a really good presentation and a good overview. I'm Vice Chair at CROG, and this has been I talked to Matt several times about this. I think it's Matt knew as town manager what the challenges we face, and Rick knows them very well, and we all do. So I think this is a really important step in planning for our future, and not just how the magnitude of the challenges we face and being able to educate the public, but also, really addressing the planning component and addressing our neighbor towns. And one of the things that is hard, and we hear about it with MDC very frequently, is we're all connected, right? Water flows. And so it's a really important regional discussion on how we address resiliency and how we plan on these big capital projects, as well as the maintenance and just how we finance the upkeep of our systems. So a really, really important step, and I thought you did a great job. Thank you very much.
Are there any other questions from anyone that's here? Okay. I just want to say thank you again for the presentation. It was very good information as someone who lives in a part of town that does flood. I appreciate this study and working hopefully with our neighbors to, because as Sherry said, the water does flow from town to town. So we're not just in a bubble on that. If there isn't anything else on this, we can, Rick, did you have anything that you wanted to say on the process, or?
No, thank you, Madam Chair, and appreciate Dwayne's presentation and our participation certainly in this study. We're learning a lot. I appreciate the questions and the feedback this morning, and there's a lot more to come. So looking forward to share the results further of the study as we move through the process, and then ultimately when we could be potentially making some decisions on how we would move forward in 2026. So thank you all for your comments and questions this morning. Next up, we have communications. Madam Chair, I have nothing under communications, and if you want, we can move quickly to Dwayne's community development report. For you, to Dwayne, back to Dwayne. Thank you.
Thanks. I'll be brief. So this is just going to focus on the engineering division and some of the activities that they have going on. We are in our construction season, so you may have encountered some of these. But if not, there is a reconstruction project that started on King Philip Drive. Just wanted to quickly point this out. This will be an extension of what was done on King Philip Drive in the past. So this section is from Fuller Drive heading north to Tumblebrook Road. So we are near a couple schools there. The plan will have very similar design elements to what was done on King Philip south of there several years ago. Also important to point out that we are in the process of designing a roundabout at the intersection of King Philip Drive and Old Meadow Road. So this would be the first one. For when we say design, we're making sure that we are in conversation with other staff. So emergency responders, public works, and school transportation in particular. We are going to do the best we can to get this project done as much as possible anyway during the summer when school's out. Turning to road resurfacing, we just finished our first round for the year of milling and paving. So we have 2 more rounds planned. I believe pavement markings still need to go on those roads. I don't think they've done that yet, but for the most part, those projects are complete. And the next round of milling and paving is coming. It seems like they go one into the other. So I'll quickly read off the streets, but we are looking to start milling this next round of streets on Monday, July 7th, and approximately a week worth of milling, and then they'll start the paving, which is anticipated, weather permitting, of course, to start on Monday, July 14th, probably 2 weeks of paving. So about 3 weeks total of work on these roads. They are listed in the report, but I'll read them off very quickly. So Arnoldale Road, the section from Boulevard to Park, Asylum Avenue. We already did a section of Asylum, but we're doing another section. This is the westerly section. So from North Main Street to the cul-de-sac at Fox Chase Lane. Craigmore Road, Lyman Road, a section of Mountain Road from Richmond Road to Still Road. That's the really very northerly section near Bloomfield. Shady Lane, Wetton Road, and Whiting Lane from Farmington Ave to Boulevard. So these will all be done beginning to middle of July. We have a 3rd round of milling and paving scheduled in September. We typically don't like to give the street names out in advance in case we have some changes, but of course we will do so when we get closer. Moving on to Vision Zero, as you're well aware, we have a lot of work going on related to Vision Zero. I just wanted to point out that we have some quick build projects that are in process. Materials have been ordered and delivered to Public Works for these quick builds, and engineering is working with its survey team to design and lay out in the field these quick builds to be installed by Public Works. We also are coordinating with Public Works in particular with respect to plowing, making sure that we don't set these up and they immediately, well, not immediately, but this winter get knocked down by plow trucks. So for example, we did this at the intersection of Quaker Lane South at Kingswood, Kingswood Road, I believe, is the intersection. And so if you go there, you'll see white paint marks at the intersection corners. Public Works will be installing pylons and other devices to make that intersection tighter or more narrow. So that's one of the first quick builds. We also have quick builds planned on Cedric Road and Park Road, all planned to happen this summer. So more to come on that. And lastly, I just wanted to point out that we are working on a grant that we received called Community Connectivity Grant, which improves the pedestrian signalization at a handful of intersections. So you'll see a contractor doing this work for the town very soon. They have started at some of the intersections. So I will list them off quickly. They're also in the report. So Farmington Avenue at North Quaker Lane South, Quaker Lane South at Boulevard, Raymond Road at Isham and the Whole Foods driveway, South Main Street at Ellsworth and the Town Hall driveway, and Trout Brook Drive at Boulevard. So these are accessible pedestrian signals. So we have a lot of these around town. These intersections still needed improvements. So most of it is push buttons and the pedestrian signal heads and the audible indication to pedestrians. These help all pedestrians, not only blind or people that are challenged with sight, but we have a lot of distracted pedestrians who are not always paying attention when they're standing at the corner. Myself included, sometimes you're standing there and you don't even realize the pen face came on. So this gives you the indication so that you don't miss it and motorists don't get frustrated. And that concludes my report. Happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Does anyone on the committee have any questions?
No question from me.
No. Councilor Blanks?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I do have a question for you, Dwayne, and thank you for that report. The question is for Talcott Road and the Quaker Lane South in terms of either push button pedestrian signal or striping. On both ends too. So Quaker Lane South and Talcott, as well as Talcott and New Park. So I notice when I'm walking and I'm on the, let me see if I can get it right, the east side of the road, crossing over Talcott to the south side, there's not a push button pedestrian walk. And I don't believe that there's a striping either in terms of the pedestrian walkway. What I did notice is that there is one going from the east side of the street to the west side of the street when you're crossing over Quaker Lane South. Is there anything in the Vision Zero plan about that particular intersection, which is a busy one, right? Because it's mixed with the residential as well as commercial. And then there are a lot of drivers who really don't wait before they take that right on red. So that can get a bit challenging. And then to your point, we do have a lot of pedestrian walkers who are not paying attention because they're looking down at their phone. So I just kind of see something happening, especially now that we're in the, height or the beginning of the summer months and school is out and kids are riding their bike, more people are walking. I know that was a bit lengthy, but can you address any of that?
Yes, through you, Madam Chair. I need to double check and get back to you, but I'm fairly confident that there are plans to upgrade the pedestrian signal equipment at that traffic signal at Quaker and Talcott. This is something that's been talked about for a while. There's a redevelopment that occurred on the corner, so we had more people living there and questions as to why we didn't upgrade the signal. I believe it is planned. I don't think there's going to be any new crosswalks there. I think the crosswalk arrangement stays the same. So I believe there's a crosswalk on the south side and east side of the Quaker and Talcott intersection. But the pedestrian signal equipment is planned for upgrade. So I will verify that and get back as far as the schedule. The other side of Talcott at New Park, that's in our New Park Avenue Complete Streets Improvements project to upgrade that traffic signal. I believe it gets completely replaced and the pedestrian signal equipment gets upgraded when that happens. We are planning on being in construction this year to start that project, but it will inevitably go into the following year. But that is also planned for improvements there. Thank you.
Thank you.
Does anyone else have any questions for Dwayne? Okay, seeing none, it's a busy summer. How, just quickly, we've had a lot of rain. So are they, I would assume they're running behind, but maybe they're on schedule on the first round of milling and paving. Do you know what, where they are on schedule on that?
Yes, I think the rain affected us maybe one day or so. Actually didn't bother us that much for the first round. And so all the milling, all the paving is done for the first round of streets. It's just the pavement markings. And typically they come at night. So it really depends on the weather conditions at night. I believe all of the streets have been laid out. So if you go there, you can kind of see silhouettes of what the pavement markings will look like, but they haven't actually completed that round of streets yet. So There's a good stretch of weather coming up. I don't see why they wouldn't be able to get it done quickly. I refer to them as like the pavement marking elves. All of a sudden, poof, the pavement markings arrive. You know, you might have heard it if you live there, but all of a sudden it seems like it's just done. So should come together quickly.
Okay. I know it's just been raining a lot, so I thought I'd check. Raining a lot. So does anyone have any future agenda items? Okay, seeing none, can I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second? Albert
Second, sorry,
raised his
I got
hand.
issues with emojis. Second.
Okay, so meeting adjourned. I hope everyone has a nice day.
Thanks, everyone. Have a good
Bye.
day.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
That